1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Friday show live. Royal Blue podcast soundcheck. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Royal Blue podcast soundcheck. Friday show live. Hello and welcome to the Royal Blue podcast. It is the Friday show. We are live on YouTube and I am your host Ian Croll. Joining me in the Royal Blue studio today to talk all things Everton, we've got Gavin Buckland. Gav, it's just me and you today. No one else is about.
Yeah. And then number two. Yeah.
Chris is off and Joe is gallivanting around. He'll be at the press conference.
Yeah, before we came on here, we're having a discussion on which is the best waste disposal unit on Merseyside. So it's not all fun and games in the Royal Blue studio.
No, I mean, important things to ask and question.
Sure he was, yeah.
What did we come to the conclusion of?
Depends where you live, obviously. I've been tightened this morning because it was up in my father-in-law's, but...
I questioned why you didn't go to Old Swan,
Yeah, well, that's a godsend for us, isn't it, Old Swan, compared to years ago.
It is. Yeah. How are things anyway? All good? Must be extremely happy after Tuesday's win.
Yeah. As I was going to say, you compared last Saturday evening to waste disposal, couldn't you really? Load of rubbish. So
yeah, you suppose you haven't been on since then.
I haven't. Yeah.
You've had the negative of Newcastle.
We've had the full Everton experience this week, haven't we? Home and away. I thought we got overpowered on Saturday. It was an interesting fact. Somebody I heard this week that's the first two times Newcastle have had that team out this season was against Man City.
I did see that, yeah.
Everton, and you could see that. I suppose afterwards, and I know you discussed it earlier on the week, Moyes' comments were, about we've got to be at our best, Newcastle have to be at the worst, or whatever.
Did you agree with that, though?
I can see what he was saying.
But based on Newcastle's away form?
He has sometimes, if an experienced manager, he can make a reasonable point in a clumsy way. And I thought I didn't understand what he was saying. But put it this way: if you were doing, it's old news now. If you were doing a combined Newcastle and 11 and Everton 11, how many Everton players will get in there? Probably not many. And so from that, he was right. But whether you say that
in the grand scheme of things,
I probably
with the way the season's gone,
it's that classic thing, isn't it? Never interview a manager 10 minutes after the. After the final whistle or whatever,
it's impossible in this day and age.
Yeah, sometimes you say stuff, but you think, you're quite vulnerable. I think we all agree. We understand what he was saying. It was just said in such a way that sounded a little bit defeatist, and I can understand why people, people were critical of him, really, for saying it, even though probably the genesis of it is probably true, to be fair. And I thought they played well. Thought we were poor, but thankfully we rectified that. And then some, didn't we, on Tuesday evening?
Absolutely. Well, if you haven't listened or watched any of the Newcastle reaction shows, then you can go back on YouTube on the Royal Blue podcast and all those platforms. We are going to give Gav the final word on Tuesday night's win for today's agenda, and we will quickly move on to the Nottingham Forest game. We will preview that. A Nottingham Forest side managed by former Everton manager Sean Dyche.
Yes, he's done quite. I was looking at his stats yesterday. He's won 5 out of 9.
Does it fill you with any trepidation in
I think it'll be in terms of a former Everton manager come back. I think he's doing trepidation, but he's doing a good job. So it's not going to be an easy game, is it? And they won midweek, didn't they? Away, didn't they? Did they? So
they beat Wolves, didn't they?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I was going to say.
I was about to look then, and I just remembered.
Yeah, well remembered. And I think it'll be a tough. He's got them playing well. His possession stats are quite alarmingly high, aren't they? Have you seen them?
Well, do you know what? I'm so glad you've mentioned possession because it's a
that's
topic.
Not something you say often on a pod, is it? Or
no. It's a topic I want to flag up a lot on this thing, which we will do. Later on in the show.
So I think it'll be a tough game. They've got some really good players. His last game, ironically, for Everton at Goodison was the 2-0 defeat to Nottingham Forest last December.
Yeah, and his official last game was Bournemouth away, wasn't it?
Yeah,
interesting week then.
It is, and whatever you say about Dyche, and 95% of all management reigns end up in the sack. I think he did a good job at Everton. You know, I think he was here what 2 years, was it? I think in the first year, I mean, when he took over from Lampard in January 23, that's when we had the you know, we were right near the bottom. We had the headlock gate and all that. The club on and off the pitch was a bit messy, wasn't it? To say the least. And he kept us up, didn't he? And then the following season, we had a 10-point deduction, a 6-point deduction, club getting sold, club not getting sold, all that type of thing going on off the pitch. He kept us up reasonably comfortably in the end, didn't he? On the basis of 2 really good runs, one in the autumn, one near the end of the season when we won 4 out of 5, wasn't it? Also won a derby match. But inevitably there's going to be a little bit of, you know, you're going to drop off a little bit after that. And that happened last season. But I think him and Thelwell, I think history will look on them quite kindly as Everton managing director of football when you see all the flux that was going on around the club on and off the pitch at the time. And I've got a lot of time for him as Everton manager.
I don't disagree with you in terms of how history might like see Dyche, you know, in the next couple of years. What I will say, it's a shame that he's looked on by some Evertonians, I'm including this in myself, as unfavourably, to be honest, because he did do an okay job.
What I would more than an okay job.
No, what I would say is that, you know, the 2 seasons or at least one of the seasons that we did have him as manager, it was one of the worst leagues or one of the worst relegation. You know,
I get that. I mean, I know we had the 10-point deduction.
I think my point of view, like for a manager who actually beat Liverpool at home, he picked up some good results. Don't get me wrong, he had some terrible runs. You know, that 4-month run without a win, that was poor. But he should be really looked on quite favourably, really. But is that because of him himself? Is that because of his personality? Some of the things that he said?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we just spoke about Moyes there, didn't we? I mean, some people look on unfavourably as Everton supporters on some of the things Moyes has said over the years, hasn't it? You know, don't they? And every right to do that. I get that with Dyche.
He didn't adhere himself to the fans. He didn't have that like connection like Moyes has got. Moyes might say a couple of things where fans would disagree with, but at least Moyes has got that connection. And I suppose having been there for 12 years previously, that does help.
Yeah, you would think if he doesn't know the club. I know he's been away, but I know what you're saying.
I don't know whether you need a connection with your manager. I probably think that you do.
As a fan?
Yeah, as a fan. But Dyche just, from day one, like, you know, when we got that 10-point deduction and we ended up going on, I think we lost United straight away, didn't we? Then we went on a 4-game winning run. That should have been like the catalyst for him to get the fans on board. And he almost did to an extent with that run. And for winning 4 games in a row after getting deducted 10 points is something spectacular, really, when you think about it.
Certainly.
Chelsea, Newcastle, Forest and Burnley were the teams involved and all that. And for it to reverse and spectacularly flip on its head, and the fans a couple of months later to just turn on
we had
them
that
completely.
Series of bad results then, didn't we? But we didn't win till, like, was it March or something? We played that kill or be killed game against Burnley, remember? Like, we were both right near the bottom, and we won 1-0 with the goal. Was it Calvert-Lewin off the goalkeeper? Remember, it bounced in. Was it
in the autumn, wasn't it? Not the autumn, the spring. Sorry, get me a season
so it wasn't perfect, and you know, and I think, you know, if you're going to win 12 games a season and 12 or 13 games in a season, do them, you know, equally across the season. You know what I mean? Don't have a run of like winning 4 and winning 5 and having like 3 months or 4 months without winning between, because that's when you will get sticking, quite rightly so. So I think I get that, but I'm just looking at, he kept us up in 23 when we nearly went down in 22. Obviously, that fact of whatever it was, we would have finished 11th with 49 points, wouldn't we? Without the penalty in 23-24, which is an extraordinary performance, really, with the team and that backdrop that was going on.
He just had a burst and run of games where he might win like 3 or 4 in a row. And again, he's a manager who managed Everton that beat Liverpool. We should look at him or look upon him as favourably because of that.
I think that's small time thinking.
Is it?
Yeah, absolutely. You've got to be aiming for more.
No, I agree. But from what I'm saying is from where we were at that point.
Oh, yeah, it's something to remember. The odds ultimate game at Goodison. Yeah, I get
everything
that.
was stacked against us and Dyche.
Yeah, and I get that. And we played really well, didn't we? I get that, but we need to play more higher than that. But I think, as I say, history will look on him kindly. There was a couple of I mean, the game they beat Newcastle 3-0 when he had. Did he have Young playing wing back? Did he call him at wide right? And he had played Jack Harrison as number 10. That was one of the best performances of Goodison in the last 5 or 6 years.
I think that was the only time, or the one time only, that Jack Harrison played as the number 10, and he had a great game.
Yeah, he had a great game, and never played him there again, which I think was a bit of a waste. But yeah, I think he's done a really good job, as you say. Even at Burnley, his career is listed with, for somebody who's a reasonably cautious manager, is listed with like good runs, then a long run, good runs of wins, then a long run without winning.
But that's exactly what he did with Everton, isn't it?
Well, the year he got into Europe with Burnley, he went 14 games without a Premier League win. But I thought he was a good Everton manager. Considering over the last 10 years, we've had quite a few. He's he's near the top, as he did the job he was paid to do to a large degree, and I'm thankful for that, because we could have a poor management performance there, even allowing for some of the teams at the bottom not being great, could have easily seen us relegated quite comfortably in 2024.
There's the fan. I mean, I don't want to dwell too much on Sean Dyche because he's
but it's tomorrow,
no, of course it's a subplot, and he's the opposition manager, former Everton manager. Was the final nail in the coffin? I mean, I know it wasn't the final nail in the coffin, but in people's eyes, in your eyes, it probably was in my eyes. The Bournemouth game, 3-2, winning 2-0, and then conceding 3 with what? Not even
3 minutes left. And you've gone. Then we did that. But that was the same. That happened to Martinez, didn't it? Martinez's Everton career flipped. When we beat West Ham 2-0, their own got beat 3-2.
I think a lot of fans take that.
And I think with Dyche,
the Bournemouth one was seemingly more spectacular.
Yeah. As if
from
you
what
could
I
do
remember,
anything like that more spectacular than Martinez. I was in a bar in Antibes when that was going on.
I was sat in my seat in Goodison Park.
And it was it was a bit wasteful, very wasteful. Yeah, and I think he probably didn't recover from that. What did we win? 3 games, was it? 3 games by Christmas or 4?
Well, we lost the first 4, did we? And then we drew against Leicester.
When the Carabao Cup at home to Southampton, was it? Yeah. And the penalty shootout. So you're ticking all the boxes there, aren't you? Like, you know,
he's gone.
Yeah, and
lasted longer than probably what people thought.
Well, I think to last 2 years at Everton in those circumstances of the club on and off the pitch and the circumstances which he took over, I think that was a major kudos for Dyche for that, to be fair. Whatever you think of him as a manager and a personality, I'll always hold him in high regard for the job he did at the club.
He kept us up, and
twice.
I've been, or had been, one of his biggest critics, and I'm not afraid to shy away from that, but he kept us up. He deserves credit for that, and that's fine. I just wish I wish I looked upon him a little bit more favourably than I do.
Yeah, and you might do in time.
Will he get booed tomorrow? Will he get a bad reaction?
I hope not. I think he'll get a good
get a bit of a
reception. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, well, as mentioned, we are live, so on YouTube.
Can we see comments? Just so that people, if they're putting comments, can we see them?
We can't see the comments on the telly behind the camera because the internet's not working for some reason. But I've got the comments in front of me, so I can see them.
Yeah.
So drop your comments in as usual. I'll try and read out as many as possible. Just a quick word for our sponsor before we do get going, NordVPN. Do you think Sean Dyche has got a NordVPN, Gav?
I think everybody should have NordVPN.
That's what I like to hear.
Yeah.
Okay, well, on that basis then, to get the best discounts on your NordVPN plan, go to nordvpn.com/EFC. Our link will also give you 4 extra months on a 2-year plan, and there is no risk with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee, and the link is in the podcast episode description box below. Okay, right, obviously come on to Forest, all that sort of stuff. Just give you the final word on Bournemouth, Gav.
I thought we played well in the circumstances.
Just excellent response.
Yeah. I thought the changes, both at the back and the front, worked. I thought we pressed well. Didn't play brilliantly. Bournemouth, I know they got a few absentees and stuff, and they're struggling for form, but I thought we deserved the win without really creating like a large amount of good chances, which has been the case for most games this season. And we got lucky, didn't we? Oh, but lucky, not a lucky win, but Jack, who I seem to remember saying in August, should shoot more, did that, and it was and he slipped as well, didn't he? No, they still went in. And it was noticeable on Tuesday. They were switching it around in game a little bit more behind the striker end. He was appearing far more in central positions. Grealish, which I think helped, even though I don't think by his own admission he had a great game. I thought Charlie did okay. I thought Irabunum showed plenty of character coming back after being hauled off at half time on Saturday evening. Thought O'Brien did well. I'm seemingly getting on to the fact that Garn maybe should be our permanent right back.
Yeah.
And
there's a lot of selection choices that could be made over the next couple of weeks, isn't there?
And as we'll see, NJ struggling a little bit. I do think there's a little bit, and I noticed this as Semenyo on Tuesday after about 10 minutes. I think there's a few of the lads that go in the AFCON who probably are just including
interesting theory,
including who across the park.
Putting in Dyche in that as well.
Yeah, I think.
Are you saying Gay got sent off on purpose so he could have a little
absolutely.
rest?
No, I think there's a feeling, isn't it, that going into the AFCON, that a few of the players are.
It's an interesting theory, something I haven't thought about, to be honest.
I think NJ as well is just, he's had a lot of tough games, hasn't he, recently, like Grealish. And I thought he was a bit off it, but I do think psychologically, and I saw it with Semenyo. After about 10 minutes, I thought, you're way off it here, mate. And then I put the link of him and NJ and thought, what I think Semenyo's going, isn't he? It was a good win. I thought Kieran Dewsbury Hall again was excellent. I've seen a couple of people mention this week, and I definitely agree that he's future captaincy material.
Okay.
If he stays at the club. In fact, I would probably give it to him at the end of the season. Given Tarkowski's form and so on.
It's definitely going to be. It could be up for grabs, I guess.
I think he's definitely the next skipper, and plus he did well, and we won. I think there's a stat came up, didn't it, in the second half? They'd had 3 shots, we'd had 13. But was not necessarily 13 great opportunities, and also as well some great corners by Garner in the first half, wasn't it, in particular? Put them under pressure.
He played well, and his set piece corner kick taken has always been a strong point of his game. Yeah. Don't get me wrong; it's not always on point, but it's better than most.
3 or 4, didn't he? Tierno Barry probably a little bit unlucky on a number of occasions not to get the ball in the net.
I didn't understand that. So, one of the corners that Garner put in, and Barry headed at the bar, didn't he?
Hit the post, didn't it? Yeah.
But then they didn't give him that as an effort on goal, which I found astounding, to be honest.
I'm not sure.
I'm sure he said that on the commentary.
A bit of a whale of arms, and didn't it really? But
what about Jake O'Brien? I mean, just here, so without going back to Dyche, Liam EFC 1997 said O'Brien's a player that he refused to play, and
Moise refused.
No, Dyche refused to play him, didn't he?
Oh, I see what you mean.
Moise got him back in. But look at him now, thriving in 2 positions.
I think was his debut the FA Cup game, or his first start was the FA Cup game, and Coleman and Baines were in charge, and he stayed in the team then. I think when you're looking back on Dyche's reign, some of the questions that remain unanswered about why he didn't play O'Brien, especially somebody who's a red-haired centre half, a bit like Dyche himself.
It was just a strange one, that, wasn't it? To spend so much money on, whether it was all that money up front, I can't remember, but either way,
17 million, wasn't it?
To spend all that money on someone and not
playing at all. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's not as if we were keeping clean sheets every week. Because I know people were raising eyebrows, weren't they? He can't be that good if he's not being played, but he came in.
Well, that's the thing,
and did well, really, at the end of last season. An unfamiliar right back position. I thought he did okay on Tuesday, because Bournemouth didn't really threaten us much. Yeah, it's an interesting one, and there is now a selection headache, is there? If Keane is, I'm not sure about what it is for tomorrow. Maybe find out later. Does he change the winning team? I'm not just talking tomorrow. Maybe in the week after. Does he change the winning team or keep as is? The
problem that you're going to have, because Irabunum is suspended, if Keane is still injured, then you're going to have, obviously, O'Brien, Tarkowski would probably be the two, and then Garner probably stay as right back.
Yeah.
But then does that leave Garner having to be coming back in midfield and someone as a makeshift right back? It's a really precarious position to be in.
You could bring Dewsbury Hall back and play McNeil or something like that, couldn't you?
Yes, yeah. Well, we'll come on.
Which is a decent game probably to do that. But yeah, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about selection a bit. I'm just trying to get my head around that because, as you say, that sort of like right back midfield, centre half area of the pitch this season. One injury can change in that area can change like all three.
Yeah, well,
parts
that's what's happening really, at this moment.
Which could happen, or a suspension tomorrow. We'll see. It'll be an interesting, but I think going forward, Garner maybe just keep it right back, and it does leave question about whether you should play O'Brien as centre half. Albeit Keane's had a great season, and hopefully we've got Branthwaite to come back in the new year.
Either way, though, if Keane does come back in, for me, it's just Garner back in midfield and O'Brien back on the right back. So that's like the simple decision.
Yeah, because we've got AFCON and stuff like that. I'm just thinking, a bit longer term now. Interesting.
Personnel changes. Then you kind of mentioned it. I know in the past, Gav, that you've suggested that you wouldn't like to see Kane and Dewsbury all play deeper, but he did play as a deep lying holding midfielder against Bournemouth, which allowed Alcaraz probably a little bit more freedom as the number 10. And you've already said you were impressed, but can you see why a lot of people have been saying, that's where Kane and Dewsbury all should play?
I just don't think he's strong, but I don't think he's got the physical presence. As you saw last week against Newcastle, albeit he was playing a bit higher up the pitch against, and this like a lot of midfields in the Premier League these days against big strapping central midfielders. I think he'll get found out if you're playing in front of the back four, and I wouldn't therefore play in there. I'd still like to see him playing as a forward 8 or 10. I agree with what Scotty said earlier on the week. That's no such thing. Yeah. The classical 10 doesn't exist, but just in that hole behind the strikers, that's still, I think, his best position. I think against physically strong opposition in midfield, I don't think he's playing to his sense playing in front of the back four.
It is an interesting one because I half agree, half disagree. I think I agree with what Tony said on Wednesday's show, where he said if it's Kane and Dewsbury all playing deeper, then he needs like that powerful midfielder like Irabuman. I think those two, because they're two completely different players, they were able to.
Yeah, you wouldn't have Garner Gay there with them.
No, and I don't know whether you'd have James Garner there either.
No. But yeah, possibly. But yeah.
No, so I just think the midfield balance was there, and I think it goes back to against a team like a Bournemouth or even a Forest, let's say Forest, I'll use the example because we played them on Saturday. Do you really need two holding midfielders against a team like that? And I just don't think you do. If you come up against an Arsenal, a Liverpool, a Chelsea, a City, I can understand the argument for that. Completely understand the argument for it. But you could see that we were a lot more balanced in the midfield with Kane and Dewsbury a little bit deeper.
Yeah, Bournemouth have ball playing midfielders, don't they? Yeah, I think what he does give you, and it can't be a negative thing, what he does give you, which none of the others do, I don't even think Garner, is he gives you an ability to bring the ball out from, the edge of the penalty area. And we saw that in Man United, didn't we, when he was playing deeper there? He's to pick up the ball at the edge of the area, and he's got the skill and the ability to bring it out and, get us further up the pitch. Which I don't think none of the other midfielders can do that, can they? I mean, Garner Gay can't. So Irabuman, I don't think is experienced enough. James Garner, no. He's more of a passer, I would say. And so he does give us that. But you might be right. I just think against, as you say, against a big midfielder wouldn't play him there. Sim wouldn't play him against Newcastle. So I think, pick and choose your games. But I'd rather see somebody with Dewsbury Hall's ability in and around the box to be up to the other end of the pitch. as you saw against Man United and Newcastle.
I'm still going with them playing a little bit deeper as the number 8. If that's what you want to,
you could play a flatter. You could play a flatter 3. Where you're effectively playing 4-3-3, possibly.
I just think because sometimes when he picks up the ball and he can bring it forward, in good strides, he's got that space to pick out decent passes. It doesn't have to be that killer through ball, which we've struggled with this season, and I think that's where maybe we've let ourselves down. I think being a little bit deeper, you're going to have 3/4 players in front of you, and he's just got that space to pick out that pass.
He does use Grealish too much compared to the right hand side of the flank, as the stats show, don't they? That's because just the nature of how he has the ball, doesn't he? And he's left-footed or right-footed. He's good on both feet, isn't he?
Well, I think he's left-footed, but he did score with his right against United, didn't he?
And if he's naturally left-footed when he's bringing the ball out, he's going to look to his left-hand side all the time, isn't he? Far more than the right-hand side. I know what you're saying, but I'd rather somebody with his ability and shooting capabilities. Another one like Grealish has not done enough this season in and around the box, and then Jai even. Should be shooting more, and I'd like to see him at the other end of the pitch hitting the opposition. Great goal against Newcastle, wasn't it? It was Bergkamp-esque, wasn't it, against Newcastle? Pity we got beat.
Tony said that.
Yeah.
Stephen Dyer says Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall himself said when he arrived he's a number 8. Whenever he has played centrally, he's had his best games for us, and when he plays central, his defensive numbers have actually been better than Gay's as well.
What's defensive numbers?
He hasn't relate those numbers.
Yeah. But that doesn't tell you everything, does it, really? The stats don't tell you a lot of things, do they?
I think Bournemouth gives us more. It should give the manager more of a clear blueprint of where players are better suited at this moment in time. And I'm not talking maybe like... Because
of AFCON and we've got a couple of injuries. In other words, we keep Alcaraz in the team tomorrow.
Yeah. 100%. He hasn't got much choice though in midfield, really, has he? I mean, you've got McNeil and Diblin who could potentially come in. Like you said, is this a game where McNeil could start because it's a Forest team who obviously aren't firing on all cylinders? So that is an option. I can hear people in the background shouting, "We don't play McNeil." But I guess he's gonna be used at some point, and he's being used as a substitution to see games out, isn't he? So Moyes trusts him in that aspect. Obviously off the ball, but midfield-wise, if Keane is, it's all going to depend on Keane, and we probably won't find out. We might not even find out in the presser.
Statement that you would never have said 18 months ago, is it?
Well, it just affects and impacts so many different other positions.
Would you
rest
Njai?
No, I'd keep playing him. Yeah, keep playing him. Moyes clearly hasn't got the trust in Diblin at this moment in time, and Ndiaye.
That's a separate pod in itself, isn't it? Really,
Ndiaye maybe. You could say not being at his best over the past 3 games. Maybe he wasn't at his best at United.
But he worked hard.
But so did Grealish as well.
Yeah, Grealish has worked hard. I mean, I know we bought him on loan, but he's even on Tuesday he worked hard, didn't he? Without necessarily playing offensively well.
That's a positive for me though as well.
Absolutely.
We're not relying on him too much.
Well,
because he is a player where you think he's the catalyst or the talisman to get a goal.
I think Dewsbury-Hall's the player with line on.
I was going to ask you the question: is he Everton's most important midfielder at least at the minute?
We spoke about. I'm not going to go over old ground there about transformative players, and I would argue that Dewsbury-Hall has been our most transformative player this season. I like him. I think he's captaincy material. He plays in the right area of the pitch to be a captain. And he like Grealish and Ndiaye worked really hard. I mean, where it appears to matter to them, which it doesn't really.
He's taken on the responsibility, hasn't he?
Yeah. And I say captaincy material, easy. And so that's why I'd have him up the other end of the pitch behind the striker. Yeah, you'd play Alcaraz tomorrow, couldn't you? Really, I said McNeil before. You could play Alcaraz, Grealish, Ndiaye, and drop Dewsbury-Hall back to play with Garner and have, but then it depends what's happening with Keane, then, doesn't it? Really, because if Keane, there's the options here. Lack of options are various. If Keane's not fit, what you do? You're going to have to play Garner at right back again and play Irabunum and Dewsbury-Hall because they're the only 2 people you can play there, isn't it, tomorrow?
No, he'd have been suspended.
But sorry, yeah, it was just by Garner. Yeah, I forgot about that. I told you there's too many movable parts in my brain.
This is the problem with midfield.
Yeah, you play Garner and Dewsbury Hall, O'Brien at right back. But who do you play centre half if Keane's injured?
That's the point. So if Keane is injured, O'Brien keeps his place without a doubt, and then it depends whether Garner is right back or in the midfield.
So you're gonna be losing either a centre half or a right back or a midfielder, depending on which way you configure it, isn't it?
Garner's in as long as he's fit. It's just where he plays.
Yeah,
and this is why I think McNeil could potentially get a start. Does he? But I tell you what he could do, and it might leave the midfield a little bit light. And I know you won't want this, but McNeil on the left and Grealish as the number 10 with Alcaraz playing a little bit deeper.
Yeah, but it's this back four right back midfield, isn't it? That's the area, isn't it? That's where the problem is. We've got options behind the striker, even if you do drop Dewsbury Hall back.
I'm fine with that though. In fact, I want that. I want him to be a little bit deeper.
Yeah, okay, so Dewsbury Hall, you're gonna have to play Dewsbury Hall and Garner tomorrow, aren't you? In front of the back four.
Who's right back though?
Well, it depends where O'Brien plays. Can't be Seamus. Is Patterson? Patterson's being
nowhere near it, is he?
Is he being on the bench, Patterson? I can't remember. Is he being on the bench?
If he's on the bench, he's just making up numbers, isn't he?
Yeah. The other option, which is a little bit more left field, is to play back three with Mikalenko.
Interesting.
Mikalenko, Tarkowski, and O'Brien, and play Dewsbury Hall, Garner, and then have two wing backs. You could play whoever. You could sort out the problem that way by playing a back three. But that Moyes is not a back three kind of guy, is he really? Very, and he plays at West Ham a bit. I can't ever remember that ever playing at Everton. He's a goalkeeper and two centre halves guy, isn't he? So yeah, there's a problem there, isn't it, if Keane's unfit?
Well, if you're listening to this after Moyes' press conference where he's revealed that Keane is fit, then I do apologise because that conversation is all
well, no, it isn't actually, because you still got to solve the problem with Boone
not being in the team.
Not being in, isn't it really? Yeah, of course. So it's yeah. I mean, we got Davies' details. Can we get it?
100% McNeil sees more minutes tomorrow.
He's getting back in the fold, hasn't he, for somebody who looked like lost about a month ago?
I mean, there's talk of loaning him out and selling him in January, which is fine, but if we're struggling for numbers now, that would be... I think
if they get an offer for him in January, they'll sell him.
Yeah, but that's fine, but
and just
get someone in.
Just get through the rest of the season. Yeah, but yeah, so Michael Keane is holding all the cards here, isn't he?
Moving on, just...
I forgot about Sarah Boone being suspended, yeah, I forgot about that.
There was last week's press conference, but pre-Bournemouth press conference, Moyes got a little bit annoyed, didn't he? Tongue-in-cheek wise at some of Julia Bold's questions, because he thought that they were a little bit too negative based on, the Newcastle defeat, obviously 4-1. This is beating Bournemouth. Is Moyes struggling to balance the expectation for this season? Because, some ways it's...
What was the question? I can't remind me. Do you remember what the question Julia said, was it? Or was it...
I wish I'd wrote these down because I listened to it this morning.
Fail to prepare to fail,
I'm ashamed of myself.
That's right, yeah. I know you've got other things going
on.
Look,
either way, it was centred around, obviously, the defeat to Newcastle. Yeah, the first one was he surprised with the performance levels dropping?
Yeah,
that was definitely the first one. And then I'll tell you what, I think she asked 3, and the third one, the second one will come to me. Good job, my brain is working today. The third one was the run of form against Bournemouth away from home, and the poor run there. Yeah. So then Moyes tongue-in-cheek said, is BBC Radio Merseyside going to start asking some positive questions?
Yeah, I think I'm not sure that's right. I'm not sure Moyes is right with that.
I think the line of questioning was absolutely fine.
Yeah, absolutely right.
But you've got a situation where after the Newcastle game, he's like, well, we're nowhere near Newcastle's standards, they'd have to have a bad day for us and us to have a good day to get a win, which we always like. What are you on about there, Davey? Do you know what I mean? But he's also...
we know what he's on about. He's just expressed in a clumsy way,
that's fine. But then some other times, previously, probably maybe not so much recently, he has talked about Europe and wanting the club to be in Europe, and that's where we should be aiming for. So I guess, like, is he struggling to balance those expectations?
I think
it's just very up and down.
You got point in what you raised it, and I thought I didn't hear the press conference, but I heard like what you're saying, and Julia's perfectly entitled to ask them questions, because that's one thing you say about those question the press conferences that are televised, that we say, like, sometimes like the questions be a little bit too soppy when we know that the real stuff gets asked after the cameras are switched off. But actually, I think they're good questions and good points raised. To
be fair as well, Julia puts a shout out to the fans and say, what do you want to speak about? And she words them in a really good way.
That's what your job is at the end of the day. But I think and I was going to mention this on the pod at some point, is some of this, and this applies to Moyes, is when he come in last year, and he was probably always going to save us, wasn't he? Because, as you say, the bottom three were hopeless, right? What do you want off these 2 years from Moyes? What do you want as an Everton manager? What do you want from him?
Are you actually asking me, or is this a rhetorical question?
Both. What do you what? I
would love a trophy, Gav.
Yeah, okay.
I'd love a trophy.
Yeah,
whether that's realistic or not.
Probably not in the Carabao Cup ever. But what do you think? Okay, I'll express it another way. What do you think the Freakins wanted from Moyes from these 2 years?
They want sustainable league position and build the club up from top to bottom. And
what do you mean build the club up from top to bottom?
Well, infrastructure-wise.
Oh, that's not his role.
No, that's not his role. But I'm saying that you're asking what they wanted. So you're asking what they want from Moyes.
Yeah, what they want from Moyes.
Yeah, so progress in the league. And if you can get a trophy,
so
then fine.
Considering you would hope they do that, considering he took over when you were 17th or 16th. Okay, but what type of progress? Progress just to keep. You mentioned, did you say sustainability? Sustainability at some point is over them 2 years, keeping us mid-table, Davey, and avoiding the traps of relegation while we're settling into the new stadium is perfectly fine with us. Do you think that's what they wanted from him? Because you can't do a lot in 2 years as a manager, can you, in a 2 year contract?
Well, initially, they obviously wanted Moyes to come in and make sure Everton stayed up in the Premier League.
Yeah. So he's going to do that. He was always going to do that, wasn't he? Let's face it. But he did it well, didn't he? Is what does he? What do the owners want? What does Moyes want from these 2 years? And what do the fans want? And there's probably three different things going on there, isn't there? And I think that's the problem Moyes has got. I think he's probably in that sort of sandwich, isn't he, between the two? The fans have probably got high expectations. They want us to progress, get into Europe and all that. Where at the Freakins, I think probably when they brought him in, because let's face it, I don't think we spoke about this. I spoke about this pod last year. I don't think their answer to the question was giving Moyes a 2.5 year contract, was it? The relegation thing. They were forced to do that because he was holding all the cards contractually, wasn't he? He was the only show in town to keep us up. He'd managed the club before, so they're like Sam Allardyce, isn't it?
Yeah, but that's what happens, isn't it?
It happens with Allardyce, didn't it? He ended up paying him off early, didn't he? So they gave him a contract that they wouldn't have given to him in normal circumstances, because they probably wouldn't have thought him as the person to take the club forward. So therefore, I think of these 2.5 years, I think their expectation is just keep us mid-table, maybe get up a few places. Whereas the fans want, and quite rightly, as we should as supporters, they want a bit more than that, don't they? They want European qualification, all this type of stuff.
Let me just.
And I think Moyes' problem at the moment, I think he's between them two things. Is how do I handle? Like, perhaps he might not get fully backed in the transfer market, perhaps, but at the same time, the fans want us to be knocking on the door of Europe.
Some fans are coming in with some opinions to your question. So James Graham, EFC, says progression top half and Europe would be a bonus. Liam, EFC, says just to see Everton lift silverware would be a dream. Again, that was what I pointed out. That would be me. Stephen Frost, steadying the ship, possibly Europa Conference, and that would show progress. Yeah, which is probably where the Freakins are at. Are we on course for that? But it's so you don't know at the moment, because look at Bournemouth, they were second about 3 weeks ago. What are they? 14th now, aren't they? Villa were having in crisis 6 weeks ago. What are they? Third. So it's that type of season where it's very hard to say what how things are going to pan out.
what I would say is winning 3 out of 4 has changed. Like even though we got the defeat was a bad one, has changed expectations after the back of the 1 point against Sunderland and Spurs. I think that's Moyes' problem at the moment, which is probably why he was. I don't say the word antagonised. Why he chose to say that to Julius is. I think there's different pressures on him at the moment. I think I wonder what he wants is maybe different to what the owners want and what the fans want.
Do you think he was frustrated, though? I know you can't answer for him, but do you think he was a little bit frustrated on the back of the United win as well? Okay, the Newcastle United game 4-1 at home, it was embarrassing, let's face it. It was a poor result. Is he looking at it, well, we've just beat United away for the first time in how many years? Okay, we've lost the Newcastle game.
So what, loads of teams win at Man United, don't they? We can't judge what one of positive. Don't get too positive about beating United.
No, I'm just trying to play devil's advocate.
I think it's basically, if those are questions asked, they're perfectly sound questions to ask a journalist of a football manager. It's just that we're not necessarily used to them in that environment, are we, these days? It's all a bit for show, that type of thing, because the more serious stuff gets asked off air. That's just the way we are in football. I'm not just talking about Everton there.
Graham Lloyd says, given where we've been over the past couple of years recently, just start with stability.
Yeah.
Which I do think we're on.
Which is the Freakins. Yeah. I would imagine that was the Freakins.
But it's looking like we're on that.
Yeah,
that foundation, I guess.
And also as well within that, you've got to remember that actually Moyes is not the club, isn't he? He's not. In terms of getting football results, he's not. Okay, he's the manager, but he's directly affects them. You've got Nick Cox in, haven't you? You've got Kinnear. You've got James Smith, scouting and all that type of thing. So we've got a new recruitment and scouting set up, haven't we? Apart from Moyes, so they're gonna have time to bed in, because ultimately, those people doing their jobs will be reflected on the pitch. So that might take time. So in that environment, the Freakins might be quite happy for Moyes to say, we've got a new system, a new organisation off the pitch. Just keep us mid-table. We'll be fine for a couple of years, and with signs of progress, and then we'll look at it again in 18 months' time, isn't it? Whereas fans, as ever, and especially Everton fans, going so long without a trophy. I see other clubs in Europe who are probably, with all due respect, smaller than us, are probably thinking, we want a bit more than that. And I think Moyes is probably in a little bit of the middle of that. Those two aims, isn't he, at the moment?
Let's face it. I mean, I know we're not in Europe this season, but if we were, I don't think this squad would be able to cope with Europe.
No, but it'd be nice to get there.
Of course, I'm not saying I don't want it. Absolutely want to get there. Okay, moving on, because we need to speak about Forest as well. I just want to speak about like away form and home form, and how Everton's away form this calendar year has been up there with some of the best.
It's only Arsenal, isn't it?
In the league.
I was looking at in the Premier League here. I think the only time we had more wins in the calendar year was 2008.
And the home form certainly this season's been okay, a little bit up and down. Obviously, we picked up a couple of wins, draws, and
you're talking about this season or the whole calendar year?
This season, sorry. Yeah. Obviously, the Newcastle and Spurs game come to mind for poor results at home. I just want to kind of make a point that, and I've said this countless times on the pod, I'll try and rephrase it in a different way without sounding repetitive. Still think this team is so much better suited to playing away from home.
A lot of teams are like that, aren't they?
And if you look, I've done my research here. I might not have done the Julia Bowl questions, but I've done it here. If you look at our most positive results this season, and I've just named a few. So even on Tuesday, Bournemouth had 55% possession to our 45. United, obviously, we were down to 10 men. So they had 70% to 30.
Yeah.
Fulham was 50-50. We got the win there. Palace again was 50-50. But even Wolves away in the league, the win there, they had 58% to our 42.
Yeah.
And then the Brighton game, which we won at home, Brighton had 58 to 42.
Yeah.
And it goes back to for me, we're trying to change the way we play, and Moyes is trying to change the way we play because of the players that we brought in, but we're still unable to control games with possession and win those games.
I don't. That's not Moyes' style of management, though, is it? I mean, you could say over the last few years in the Premier League, the two managers who were quite happy to give possessions of the opposition is Dyche and Moyes, isn't it? Really, Moyes has always done that.
Well, that doesn't bode well then for us on Saturday.
Yeah, you can have the ball, sure. No, you can have it, Dave. But sure, they've had a lot of possession, haven't they? Forest was looking something since he came back. They've got good players, though, haven't they?
Some of their good results since Dyche has come back. I looked again. They have had the opposition. The opposition have had the lion's share.
But Dyche is a 30% possession guy, and but they've had a lot more. He's got, as I say, like I love Gibbs White. He's a great player, and the other lads, Elliot Anderson.
We do a lot of our good work or better work without the ball and winning it back. Even the goal for Grealish, let's face it, it might not have been, a rapid counter-attack, but it was a counter-attack, and we scored from it.
Yeah. Do you think the problem here, though, was the other way? We won 3 times. Okay, that's okay. That's decent, isn't it? And two in consecutive games. Is the problem, the elephant in the room here, is like clubs have difficulty transferring to a new stadium and take time to bed in?
No, I don't think it's that.
An issue?
What I would say it's been our midfield over the course of the season, and we've all said it's too weak. It's not dominant enough, and it quite clearly can't keep control of the ball for long periods of time. When you think about it, our go-to has been pass the ball to Grealish, pass the ball to Ndiaye, and they are then to.
Well, Grealish had Ndiaye in on the stats.
But that's what's their job then? To whip the ball into the box or create chances. So their job's not to retain possession or keep hold of the ball.
I think Jack will retain possession, won't he?
But it's not his job really to do that.
No,
every player's job is to retain possession.
I know what you're saying.
That should be the midfield's job, to control the ball. And the midfield 3, the central midfielders, the 2 holders, and then the number 10. Having 3 in that midfield, it should be able to keep control of the ball.
And also play through the middle of the pitch, which we don't do at all, do we? And that's why our strikers
probably done a little bit more with Barry playing. But even then, it's still not being like.
Yeah, I think with Alcaraz maybe in the round. That's why it was noticeable on Tuesday that Grealish was playing a lot more, moving to the middle of the pitch, a lot more outside the penalty area, which you think is long overdue. I do think. I know what you mean. If you've got Gone again in the team, with all due respect to him, you're not going to retain possession. You're not going to be a possession-based team because that's not his game, is it really? And that's just Moyes' style of play. I mean, we've lost. Let's face it. And this is the worrying bit, I think, for me, is we lost the games against Newcastle and Spurs because we were overpowered on our own 6-yard box by and large, our own penalty area, weren't we? I mean, they were carbon copy goals, weren't they? The Newcastle first one to the couple against Spurs a few weeks ago, and some of our defending wasn't great in the penalty area, was it, for the second and fourth goals, and the midfield and defence was catastrophic for the Bolton Maidi. I can never say his name for his goal. So that's the worrying thing, is those 2 home defeats are against teams who are maybe offered a little bit more than us and are physically stronger, and so that goes back to our point, isn't it? Really, the physical strength in the midfield is not what it should be, and so that's a bit of a worry. I thought. We should be defending corners and set pieces far better in the area, shouldn't we? Well,
we had been, hadn't we, for the first, period of the season, and against Tottenham that just fell to bits, and then Newcastle obviously saw a blueprint.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that if you're saying, we've had a lot of plus points this season, haven't we? We're talking about progress. I think we're far more attractive in the final third. I think but I think that weakness is inside our 6-yard box, isn't it, from set pieces? As we know, everybody focuses on set pieces. I mean, we played Arsenal, don't we, a few weeks ago.
It's certainly one area where Pickford probably could improve a little bit, isn't it?
Yeah, I think
I don't want to be critical of him because he's just an observation. No, it's just an observation, isn't it?
I think you're right. I mean, I thought he was really poor against Newcastle, Pickford. I mean, and
he was fantastic against Man United.
Well, he made one great save, didn't he? He didn't have much to do on Tuesday, did he, to be fair? But yeah, he had that. I'm sorry, he made a few good saves against United, but one was really good. But I thought he was really poor on Saturday. And he's been a bit in and out, hasn't he? His distribution hasn't been great. He's had a up and down time last month or so. But yeah, I think a lot of teams are away from home are well suited to it, aren't they, compared to their home form? Forest certainly are.
Mark Foster says we can't afford to chase the game tomorrow. They have plenty of pace on the counter attack.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that could become a bit of an issue.
That's we got found out last year at Goodison, didn't we? But that, I think, yeah. So I think it should be a really good game tomorrow. By the way, I think a good occasion with Dyche coming back and stuff. I think looking forward to it.
We've obviously talked about team selection a little bit. It's impossible for us to give a definitive one because of we don't know the injury situation with Michael Keane.
We should add another bit. Can you do that and record after the conference?
We'll see who's available later. We might do a bonus show. I can't promise anything.
Yeah, that'll get the viewers in, won't it? Yeah.
I think though, without preempting a victory, we've got to go positive, obviously. But if we were to take 9 points from the 12, so obviously Forest, Bournemouth, United, as in Man United, and Newcastle United, that would be a fantastic return.
I think 7 out of 12 would have been a great return, to be fair. So
with Chelsea and Arsenal on the horizon as well.
Yeah, well, we've always known that, though, haven't we? We've got Burnley as well, haven't we? At some point too.
Yes, so that's a couple of days after Christmas Day.
Yeah. So
and Forest again in the same month.
Yeah, there's still some winnable games there. No, I think a win would be fantastic tomorrow.
Should we very quickly give two teams if either way if Keane's playing or not? Is that too hard to do?
My head's scrambled. I've been in the recycling unit all morning.
That's too hard.
Yeah, no. I think what's going to happen is either we know that Dewsbury Hall is probably going to play in front of the back four, isn't he? Whatever we do, because there's no other option, is there?
I'll try and make it easy. If Keane is still injured, then it stays the same back four for Bournemouth with O'Brien and Garner in there, Tarkowski and Mikalenko.
So you're playing in front of the back four.
So I appreciate there could be a level of maybe not enough legs in there or enough physicality. However, we're struggling for numbers, so it's an Alcaraz, Dewsbury Hall double with Grealish in the middle, McNeil on the left, and Ndiaye on the right. That's what I would probably go for.
Very lightweight.
I've gazumped you there, haven't I?
Very lightweight.
Well, I know, but what's the other option?
So back four, same back four as Bournemouth, and then the two in front of the back four are
Dewsbury Hall and Alcaraz.
Nah.
So what are you doing? Who's available? There's no one available.
I think there is another option here.
Go on.
Again, is I think you've got to play Garner midfield without a shadow of a doubt. Play Garner, Dewsbury Hall, play Mikalenko centre half, and play McNeil left back.
I don't think he'll play McNeil left back.
I'm just thinking of the.
No. I mean, that's an option, yeah.
If Keane's fit, all this goes out the window, doesn't it?
Exactly.
That's the thing.
Okay, let's do our prediction then.
We could be, so the options there are various.
Is Moyes going to give it away in his press conference? Someone should ask him, hopefully.
Oh, he might get accused of saying negative, mightn't he? Yeah, but
poor Julia.
No, I think he's funny, Moyes, for all his experience. He can be a bit awkward. It's funny enough, I was with somebody yesterday, very experienced broadcaster, and they were telling me that they once asked Moyes a question after the final whistle, and he then said 20 minutes later, because that's the worst time not to ask somebody a manager question. He then said 20 minutes later at the full press, "I've got that wrong," and answered it after the final whistle. And he said, like, not many managers would do that, And so he has got an honesty about him, Moyes, which is very endearing. We'll say, but tomorrow, it'll be a really good game.
2-0, I'm going to go for
2-0
to Everton, obviously.
Yeah, what was that? We didn't review our predictions after the Newcastle game, did we? Because they went completely askew.
I haven't predicted one right for a while, to be honest. So
I've got a one all right. 2-0 tomorrow. I just think it would be. I think I think the fatigue might come into it tomorrow.
Fatigue maybe came into it against.
I think yeah. I think the United was a tough game. Newcastle was obviously a draining game because we got beat. Going to Bournemouth, I know like they flew there, midweek, and then you've got a game on the Saturday where I've seen a few players are feeling the legs. It'd be interesting to see whether he shakes her up behind the striker tomorrow. And
I think McNeil and Diblin have got to start getting a bit more minutes.
I just wonder whether, for all what we're talking about the back, whether he'll shake up the three behind the striker tomorrow, maybe manoeuvre it around a little bit. And I think it'll be a good game. I think Forest, as I say, got pace, some really good players, Dyche coming back. Should be a good occasion. It's and it's a rare beast indeed.
Did you say a prediction? You're not
I
going
think
to
we
give one.
went 2-0.
2-0.
Yeah. A rare beast, and rare beast in football these days. A 3 p.m. kick-off of a Saturday.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any final thoughts then before we shoot off?
World Cup draw later.
Oh yeah, forgot about that. There was a question there actually. I'll just address it. Let me find it. John Jones Toffee man, who gave us some really good positive comments.
Oh right, okay, yeah.
The other day, I think he referred to you as a legend.
Yes, thanks, John. Yeah, thank you.
He had some very nice words to say in a comment post podcast about the podcast. So he says, Gav, at what point do you think Scousers lost interest in England and why? For me, it started when Sven used 22 players in a friendly game.
You say that's a good question, isn't it? What I would say there, if Scouts have ever been interested in England, that's the first thing.
Well, you are a little bit because you've just brought it up, the World Cup draw.
No, that's just my wider football thing. It's interesting, this. I don't think that teams who supporters who support big clubs, I think they're not as interested in England as teams who are not big or supporters of those. It's like a fair assumption. It's like that. When England have played abroad in the past, there's all due respect to clubs involved. You always see like the banners or Mansfield Lions or Torquay. Never see like Everton.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
You know what I mean? It's because, and the same thing happens in Scotland. Nobody supports Scotland if you're a Celtic Rangers fan. They're all like all the other clubs. So I don't think there's ever been that much interest in it, and that's nothing to do with Scouse independence or that type of stuff. It's just, I think it's just to do with if you support a big club who's challenging, then that gives you enough from football.
Priorities are elsewhere.
Yeah, and I think, but there is a good question. The underlying thing there though is really modern international football is hopeless, isn't it? Really, and then obviously looking at it again because the qualifying goes on for ages. We win 8 out of 8. Score 30 goals, concede none. So in a 4-year cycle, you're probably playing 4 or 5 meaningful games. And coming up in the generation in the early 70s where every England game was a massive game because there was so much jeopardy around qualification. We didn't qualify for I was 16 before I seen England playing the World Cup for the first time. We didn't qualify in 74, 78. Didn't qualify for the Euros in 72 and 76.
That's not England's fault though, is it?
No, but in terms of one of the reasons why it's rubbish now is there's no jeopardy, is there? That's why the final, the other Wednesday was really good, wasn't it? Where Scotland were going.
Well, it's probably one of the most exciting international nights
because
for
there's
a long
jeopardy,
time.
you see. But in most international football outside major tournaments, there isn't. And even in major tournaments, there's no jeopardy. What have we got next year? 48 teams.
Well, I was going to ask you. Obviously, I always look forward to the tournaments. I think that's fair to say, and with the kids, can't wait till they're old enough to understand that because I was built up on still watching England in the 90s and the 2000s. Is the new format? Are you a fan of that? It seems to be maybe a little bit excessive. Don't get me wrong.
Which
what do you say? 48 teams.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that.
It's
I grew up on
going to be like 3 or 4 games a day, which at the time might be fantastic.
About 4 o'clock in the morning.
The quality of football might not be as good.
Well, yeah, it should be for the elite, but that's just modern football for you, isn't it? Really. But going back to the question, I don't think it's a Scouse thing. I just think it's just generally a big club thing. It was like where this guy I wrote about this in my last book actually is when we got banned from Europe, right? Okay. One of the things about why the ban extended to 1990 was obviously if there was politics involved. England could still play abroad while clubs couldn't, which is a bit that even though they caused a lot of problems.
Yeah.
And the 88 Euros, they were using that as a trial to see whether, as a trial for English fans, if they behave well, they could come back. The problem is, as I just said there, is well, most fans of English clubs who go abroad, they don't support the big clubs who get in Europe. So they had no incentive to be peaceful and behave themselves because actually the European ban doesn't affect them as clubs. And if anything, like football was going at the time, where the small clubs hated the big clubs because with TV deals and all this type, they had an incentive to misbehave because actually kept the big clubs out of Europe. And it just, I wrote about that in the last book, and that was definitely true. And it goes back to what the point saying to John is like that. Actually, it is a big club thing. Big historic clubs, they don't support England as much what they should do, really, because they get their football fix from the teams they support.
Just a good point here. a YouTube channel called Prodigy Fan. Says, I was sick of Everton losing players as soon as they got in the England squad. That's why I lost interest in England. Is there a common occurrence of that happening, do you think, over the past couple of years? Probably is.
Yeah, I mean...
Rooney, Barkley.
Well, Rooney was only going to go.
No,
really.
but still.
Yeah.
Still a point.
Yeah, I get that. And I think there was also in the early 2000s a lot of players who were just from Man United, Chelsea, Arsenal, Liverpool, wasn't it? I don't think if you're outside that group, I don't think that's particularly make things attractive to you.
That was one of the things that put me off. Because I remember when we beat Germany 5-1.
Yeah.
And obviously it was a Heskey and Owen scored the goal. I think Gerrard scored. And there was this thing going around. It was Germany 1, Liverpool 5.
Yeah,
I just think
it's not a great selling point. So I think that probably applies to Everton. But for me, it's a combination. I just think, and I like international football, and I like England, but it's apart from a couple of games of the World Cup and the Euros in 4 years, there's not a lot to be interested in it, really. It's far too much of it.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned your book, so I'll give it a plug. This is your 3rd edition book, and it's called The End, and you can go and find it in the podcast episode description box.
For Christmas.
Nice little Christmas gift if you haven't already bought it already. Order your copy now, and the link is in the podcast episode description box.
Yeah, and I'll plug it now, but I will plug it before. Me and Rob Palmer was on not Rob Palmer, the commentator, Rob Sawyer. Rob Sawyer are doing an evening, I think, I'll confirm it, I think it's the Thursday, the 8th of January, in the Denby Castle on Harry Catterick and Howard Kendall.
Oh, wow.
Talking about their respective Everton careers and compare and contrast and
that'll be interesting.
Stuff like that.
That'll be good, eh?
Yeah. So I'll plug that again before Christmas. It'd be great to see people there. That'd be great.
Okay.
More details to follow.
Fantastic. We are going to leave the show now. So thanks for everyone who joins and thanks for everyone who's listening on the audio side of things. All good, Gav, yeah?
Great, yeah. Looking forward to tomorrow. Yeah. I tell you what, win could take us, into the European spots. Get your passport and all that out.
Wow. Fantastic stuff. Yeah. Okay, I've been Ian Croll, joined by Gav Buckland, and this has been, very quickly, me and Tony are back for the post-match podcast tomorrow after the game, so keep an eye out for that. Okay, this has been the Royal Blue Podcast, and we'll see you soon.